Jolan, true friends, a warning as usual. We are in the time of Star Trek Picard. This episode is spoiler laden when concerned with episode 4 of Star Trek Picard, Absolute Candor, and just about everything else we could throw in to it. So there's lots and lots of spoilers, but if you're here for it, please continue and enjoy. Otherwise, please attend carefully. We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we are focused on Star Trek Picard's 4th episode, Absolute Candor. And today I'm joined by the lovely R. Martian. the what are you? You're a she boy? What did they call him? No, that's not what they said. They said nun boy? What did they call him? The mean name in the beginning and then later on?
Oh, the little kid?
Yeah, the best
Oh,
character ever on Star Trek that has ever existed.
the guy from
I
Lord of
love
the
him.
Rings who
No,
stepped
it's
through a.
this episode. This episode is my favorite episode of Star Trek Picard. I'm just warning you. It's I'm warning you now that what you're in for, because I already know what I'm in for with you.
Yeah, we're going in two different directions with this show, but we'll always have the recording of that first episode where we were in love
By
with
the,
each other.
not just each other. I will always have that to hang over you, actually, which is kind of funny
Yeah,
because you were more in love than me. I gave it like an infinity, and you gave it an infinity
infinity
plus.
plus
So, so
forever.
as far as the record is concerned,
I've totally screwed myself over.
not just that, twice you did it. You did it the first time on our like initial drunk discussion, which no one can blame you for, because you were high AF, right? You were like
Right.
on life, on a lot of things. You were high on the hype. There was a lot of stuff going on. But then you did it again on Starfleet Boy.
I
24
did.
hours later,
I did. I did.
you did it twice.
I
You
should
did it
never
twice.
talk about shows after watching them only one time.
But now you've
But
calmed down considerably.
yeah,
You've calmed down a
and
lot.
I'm doing it again because I've only seen this episode one time. So far, I've seen every episode twice.
I love that. I love that I get your initial reaction. I don't think that this is a show that we're gonna. So first of all, I'm treating Star Trek Picard like Downton Abbey. So when Downton Abbey was airing, every time it would come on, I would treat myself to just a little light something, a beverage, which we can't say on YouTube, but 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 audience, tune into the next Drunk Space Nine to find out more. Uh, but I just want to say that one of the reasons I do this show, Starfleet Boys, is because this is fun. This is what's fun to me. Is like I don't care, and so I'm going to say it from the beginning. Our safe word, Jurassic Park, so that you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, sorry, that was Chewbacca. Sorry,
That
wrong
was Chewbacca.
creature.
Do you remember when I used to run around like imitating a raptor, and I would actually get very
You had
physical
it. You
with
had
it?
it. You
I
could have
had it
worn like the
down.
suits and stuff and been like,
I know. I even had the honking, which I can't do anymore. But like, remember how the one raptor honks like, huh, huh, like whatever. I can't. All right, so we're here to talk about Picard, episode 4, Absolute Candor, and I'm glad that to know, as we talked about before we started official recording, that you're going to give this your absolute candor. And I will as well. So
yes,
if anything, this is also an absolute candor version of Starfleet Boy, which I'm very excited about. Um, do you want to do the summary? I don't mind if you do, because My summary is going to be very simple.
Sure.
Great.
Where do we get off to? Oh, it's basically, well, of course, every episode now seems to be flashing back to 14 years ago. Everything happened 14 years ago. Not 13, not 10, 14 years ago. It's like, oh, in that same year, it's just like, ah!
That was the year that Clancy became president of the Federation. She's like the Donald Trump, as far as I'm concerned,
Who,
of Star
Miss
Trek.
fucking Hubris?
Yes, she's the Donald Trump of Star Trek. Picard. I declare it today. I've been thinking hard about this, and the book came out called it's called shit.
That's a strange title for a book.
Starfleet Boy's 41, almost 42, and his brain cells are very damaged from lots of partying as a youth. So I can remember things like, how computers work and very like technical things, but when it comes to like the name of a book that I just saw yesterday, I can't remember.
It's fun.
Oh,
Memory is a funny thing because like I'll see like my Janet watches like shit like she's rewatching Jag now on CBS All Access,
I haven't thought of that show. See, memory's a
and
funny thing. I haven't thought
so
of
I
that
just
show in
end up
years.
watching episodes with her, and I'll be like, oh, look who it is! It's this actor from this show. He was also in this and this and this, and she's like she calls me IMDb because I can just like recall all this like people's filmographies and stuff. But then I can meet somebody and they tell me their name, and I turn around and I'm like, what was that guy's name again?
Yeah, we're like, what are they called on the Romulan ship? The defective Borg. What are they calling them? We're like the dysfunctional. I can't remember. See, I can't even remember what they're called. I'm such a bad fan. Audience, I love the show. I'm not making fun. I promise. I really just genuinely can't remember. But
I love Twilight Zone. Great, great show on CBS All Access.
Jordan Peele is a phenom. And so I could
No,
see why.
honestly they did a really. I still need 2 episodes to finish the season, but they did. They've
Hell of
done
a
a really
job
good
so
job
far.
with it. Yeah, really impressed. So, shit, the production quality is beautiful. Directing is beautiful. Everything, the
Give your
writing.
give your goddamn give your summary. Give your
All right, so
summary.
where were we? Picard 14 years ago. Picard has moved a bunch, helped a bunch of Romulans get to the. I forget the name of the planet, like Vasha or something.
Vashti.
Everything's Vash, Daj,
Because that's how the
Daj,
Romulans talk,
Ash.
bro. Bro, the
Um,
Romulans talk like that. They're like,
and there's
fuck.
apparently a bunch of warrior nuns who live there too. Nope, not a problem. Whatever. Science fiction.
I'm gonna actually look these things up because it's not fair to this episode. They had cool names. I thought that was like
Yeah, I
the
can't
whole.
remember the
But I'll
nuns were
look it up
they were
while
a
you
cool
give your
idea.
summary.
And and then I guess there's like a little orphan boy that they're raising in the meantime while they look for a family for him.
Wait. What'd you say? What'd you say? Sorry, I took my
The
headphones
the,
off.
the nuns are raising an orphan Romulan boy.
Legolas.
Yeah,
It's Romulan Legolas. I love. But so I just want
not
to. I'm sorry.
Elrond from Lord of the
This is
Rings. It's Elron from Star Trek. They just erased
it's
the D. There's a character called Elrond
this is
in Lord of the
Elnor.
Rings.
No, I know, but this is Elnor.
Oh, okay.
It's the
So
same thing.
they moved the R. Okay, yeah,
To me,
I
it's
got
an
it.
obvious homage, and I want to get. I'm gonna give the first interruption of the night. Did you read the Lord of the Rings? Did you or watch the? You watched the thing, right? You watched all like
I never
70
watched the
hours.
Hobbit movies, but I watched Lord of
No,
the
that's
Rings
okay. But
movies.
you watched the Lord of the Rings movies. Remember the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
elves? Remember the elves were leaving. They were going into the west and sailing off to somewhere, right?
Right.
So Middle
They
Earth
w-
is like
they went to Vulcan.
whoa. They totally went to Vulcan. That is, I am not. You get it. You understand where I'm coming from. I don't have to explain any further
Yeah,
because,
yeah. Vulcans are space elves, and then
but
like
they're the same elves from Tolkien's Lord. I 100% think
I don't have a problem
that
with that.
Valinor. I know. I don't either. I 100% think that Valinor is fucking Vulcan. Valinor, Vulcan. Valinor, Vulcan. So I just have to say that like to me, Star Trek is finally in my favorite zone or genre, which is like the quest. This is Dungeons and Dragons in space. This is exactly what I was looking for a long time. But it's not going to overdo it. I know that it's just Elnor, right? We're not. You're never
Well,
going to see,
it seems
like
like they're taking Star Trek, or at least Picard is going into a sci fantasy mode
yeah, but not
than
quite. It's
science
still
fiction.
very. I think, but I think the way they're doing it, aside from the visuals, I have to say like that was 100%. I'm calling it homage. People are gonna say it was like something else, perhaps, but I think it was 100% homage to that look, that aesthetic, the elves and stuff like that. They live in a
Right.
gigantic tree on Vashti. There's just a whole bunch of stuff about this episode that was like I was like so pleased with because those are my genres. It's science fiction and fantasy, and this is I feel like they haven't crossed the line yet where you're like I'm sorry for like 90% of the audience who's not going to understand this, but maybe you'll disagree with me, but I don't think they've crossed the paquete line yet. It's still very believable in my opinion. There's still ways you can explain it, and aside from my crazy Lord of the Rings connection, it's perfectly reasonable that Romulans would have a culture like this. I equate them to the Shaolin. Is that the Wu Tang, right?
Yeah,
you
Shaolin
know you know
monks.
way more about that, but this is how I see these nuns, is that they're like the Romulan version of that
Yeah, he's like
discipline and that
warrior
tradition.
monks, basically.
Warrior monks, and it's fabulous to me. These are like, now you can see also why Romulans and Klingons have been enemies. Like in ancient times, Romulans probably wielded swords just like Elnor does, and maybe they fought Klingons. Maybe they were spacefaring, but they still
The
carried,
Klingons
you
were
know,
orcs.
right, like melee weapons, as well as like blasters and stuff like that. So I just like that idea, the
Well, that's my
notion.
only issue. I don't really have a problem with the guy even looking if it's an homage or rip off, whatever. I mean, Romulans were always space elves anyway.
Yeah,
But
and
my only
Vulcan.
issue is he doesn't train with a weapon, a gun, like a blaster,
We don't know
or
that yet. We don't
like
know
he
that.
just uses a sword. Because that's a little bit ridiculous.
We don't know that he's not trained
Right,
maybe
right.
there's something cool also that we haven't seen yet, like maybe they use uh like a hybrid of a shield technology. So if you try to shoot them with a blaster, maybe there's like a technology in their sword that generates like a shield, like a longer shield
I mean, that would be
area.
neat.
So, and it would be sci-fi as fuck, like, and,
Right,
and
right.
totally like, yeah. So who knows, where that's heading, but I agree with you that it's like a little odd, but I love it.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, we just met him at the end anyway, so it's not, you know.
But the part that you didn't go into your summary is that the beginning. I have to. I have to do this. Did you not cry? Is that your dream to be an orphan and raised for a time by Jean Luc
By
Picard?
warrior, by warrior monks.
By
Or
no, but
by
by
Picard,
Jean
yeah.
Luc Picard. Those scenes. That's Patrick Stewart. That's me. I'm the little kid. I'm the orphan.
Yeah, no, see, this is the thing, where I'm at now with the show, it's like
No.
I have zero emotional
No,
connection to anything in the show.
forgetting the show. Just that's not that didn't like trigger anything at all, like in you, like a little
No,
soft spot in your
I
heart.
kept thinking, man, this monk
Ruben,
lady is a,
I'm going to read now to you from this book. What, are you being hit?
that was a mosquito, like, flew
Oh
by or
wow,
something.
we are
Hive.
in Florida. Fine, Ruben. Fine,
No,
Martian.
I honestly, I just kept thinking, I was like, this monk, the nun lady is such a bad actress. That's all I
She
kept
was
thinking.
great.
So
She was. You
bad. And
didn't
why
like her
is Picard
performance?
wearing outfits like if he just went to Midtown and
I
shopped
love
at,
it.
like,
That's
whatever? It's like they're not even trying with the costumes. They're just
no
like,
the try. Are you
let's go to Old
kidding?
Navy and get some shit from Old
Wow, we
Navy.
really did. Okay, we
Yes.
just did it. No, what we did is
Divergence.
it's this. It's Joe True. We're
But I
Joe
like
True.
that. That was cute. That was
Joe True. The Romulans now have a this, like, which is great. I mean,
right. They have their own
they've
kind of like
always,
little.
yeah. It's like, and it's like a really neat one. It's like
Yeah,
Joe True, and it's
I like
cool
that.
that they do it. See, you like a lot of stuff in this
No,
episode,
I
just
mean the
not.
directing, Jonathan Frakes directing is definitely keep him on because the episode's better directed than any of the other episodes this season by
We didn't even
far.
do the summary. We're just going full into the
Oh
discussion. I
yeah,
love
sorry.
it.
So orphan boy raised with Picard who reads him stories. This is a settlement Picard helped found, and then then the stuff happens on Mars, and then they stop the thing, and so he leaves, and apparently can't ever call people for 14 years.
He's a bad, he's a bad guy. But
He's a
come on,
horrible
okay,
person. He's a
all right.
horrible person.
All right. To be fair, how long? What's the longest gap you and I have gone
I'm
without?
expecting Riker and Troy when they show up in their episode to be like, "It's been 20
Everyone's
years, bitch."
everyone's pissed. Everyone's pissed at Jean Luc because he's really bad at social media. He's terrible at it. He
We have
hates
never
social
gone
media.
even close to 14 years without talking to each other. I think
No,
the
I know, but
longest we went was like 4 years. Or Ooh,
That's a formidable amount of time.
that's to
So,
me, yeah. To
you
Picard,
know,
it's like, I mean, I guess they do live longer, right?
they do.
Uh,
They do live into. Ooh, got it. They do
no,
live into their 130s at minimum. If you're
right.
unhealthy, which it's
Well, I
hard to
guess,
be in the future, apparently, because you can be cured of just about everything, according
right.
to Dr. McCoy. Like cancer's gone. Like so, like Rafi
Well, they
smoking
have
all
those
the time.
weird. The smoking thing is just ridiculous.
Wait, I was wondering about your take. So we're gonna bounce a
I
little
mean, I
bit,
don't really care
audience.
about it, but at the same time, I'm like, they're just trying so hard to make this Star Wars.
No,
They're just
it's
trying to be
very
Star
Star Trek.
Wars, and that's J.J.
No,
Abrams, Star Trek,
oh
and
my
it's
God.
Star Wars. Because
But
J.J. Abrams
J.J.
was
Abrams doesn't
never
have
a Star
anything to
Trek
do
fan.
with this, does he?
Well, Alex Kurtzman helped
Why are they
make
like disciples or something?
they're producing partners. They used to. I don't know. I don't think they've done something together since Star Trek, but they produced Star Trek 2009, Star Trek
Okay,
Beyond, and the whatever the
let's
third one
just
was.
let's just table that for a second because I don't know enough about all that stuff. But I agree that like there are elements in the 2009 Star Trek that remind me of Star Wars, but it's not. Come on, can you really say that
Well, in the
it's like so
2009
bad?
movie, no. In this, they seem like they're still. I mean, I just feel like that's what they understand, so that's what they bring to this
But
show.
Ruben, that's what
They
everyone
definitely don't
understands.
understand Star Trek.
Like 1980, okay, 1986 Star Trek was still not as heavily influenced, but Star Wars was still not what it is. That's a pre-prequel Star Wars, right? But
They each
everyone
had their
now,
own personality.
like, you can't tell me that even you, if you're on the writing staff of Star Trek, I know you'll try harder to stay true to like a more quote unquote Star Trek vision, but even you as a writer are going to be inspired by Star Wars. Everyone,
Sure,
it's
sure, but
unmistakable. So I just think that like a post Star Wars Star Trek, you can't. I don't know. I have to think about that argument a little bit more because I feel like Star Trek and Star Wars kind of feed off each other. Sorry, when I do that, it's because the screen is dimming, and I know that messes up the recording. We're still learning how to do this new recording system, audience. But I feel like well, anyways, whatever. I do agree with you. Like the warp effect in this episode was 100%
hyperspace.
hyperspace. It didn't. In
Why? And that's the thing. Why? The
that, but
old, the
but that
normal way is just stars, and
I
it's
know,
pretty.
I
Star Trek.
know, but we don't.
There's no
What?
reason to change that. There's no reason. I mean,
It,
it's annoyed me so much. I was like, why? Why are you trying to be Star
or
Wars?
if anything, just do the rainbow effect from Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I loved when
Or
the
just think of
rainbow.
something even entirely
No, but you
new.
remember in the motion picture, like there was a circle of rainbows that formed in front of the ship,
Oh
and then
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
created this beautiful like it was
And it
actually a
had like the
beautiful.
trail too. Like it would like
Yeah, it was
warp, and
freaking
then trail would
great.
like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I wasn't paying attention to the warp thing because I've gotten used to it because it's all over Star Trek Discovery. But I did notice it doesn't bother me as much as I suppose it bothered you to see
Well,
it
probably would have bothered me less if I watched Discovery because
because you would have gotten
I would have been
used to it by
But
now.
I
So
was
it's
just
all
like,
over.
it's just another thing where I'm like, they're just so lazy. They're just so lazy. It's
I
like,
see. I
this
don't
is what
think
hyperspace looks like. Everybody likes it. Let's just do that.
I do. I do think you and I would run a different kind of aesthetic on the show. We're attached to the we're very invested in TNG. I agree, but it's like
It's not only TNG. It's just the whole, all movies, entertainment, books, right? They gotta make you suspend your disbelief. But if Picard's always wearing something that I swear I've seen at Target, it's just like, oh, why is he wearing that? And then
I
nobody
just
else is really. And then
okay.
my other issue, like another thing I've noticed, is that all the characters, whether Romulan or whatever species they are, they all seem the same. They just seem like humans from today. There's
they,
no
they don't
difference.
seem no.
There's
I have
there's
to
no
disagree with you.
difference
Like
between a Romulan and a human character,
to
except
me,
for the eyebrows.
Elnor feels very Romulan. To me, the nuns
Elnor, but
felt I
like
I felt the nuns felt very Romulan. I think that the Romulans in on the Borg ship, the sister and the brother, are very much like what you're describing. They're like they're very human, and they're incestuous, which is kind of like unappealing. But
I don't understand. And they're so melodramatic, and it's such a soap
but
opera. It's
speaking
so
of the
bad.
but speaking of the melodrama, and again, this might just be a matter of takes, but I think that if you really want to like give them credit, perhaps for trying, I would look at like how Mark Leonard portrayed a Romulan. It was very Shakespearean and very dramatic. That's how I wish they would actually go further. I wish that the Romulans still spoke in sort of a Shakespearean style. So far, they haven't cursed, as far as I know. She hasn't said any like F words or anything. So that's kind of an interesting. Like that's, well, the Romulans are not cursing in English, which is good.
See?
You know
No,
what
they
I mean?
curse in
Like,
Romulan. Bite
which is
me.
okay, but that's okay. Like,
Really? Is he Bart Simpson?
you want them to
Eat
curse.
my shorts. Again, lazy writing.
I don't think
It's
so. I don't
easier
think
to write
so.
characters who sound like people from today than it is to write a period piece. And this is a period piece in the future. Okay, you don't write a World War One movie and have people going, "Yo, bro, what's up, dude?" Because no one talked like that back then. Same with if you're writing something in the future, you gotta make me suspend my disbelief. Make it sound like these people live in their own reality, and they don't. They sound like people doing cosplay. Eh, They sound like a bad fan fiction film that's being shot like at a
So
mall.
you
And
so
go ahead.
so I think that definitely I agree with you to a point. Like I definitely think that like no one in Starfleet should be cursing, or any like even former Starfleet I feel should not be cursing, because I think if I'm not mistaken, in at one point, and I don't know if this is true of the military today, but this was like an actual thing even in the military. You didn't curse. It was a very formal way of talking,
Right,
and a very like clear way of speaking, like with no like, that's what you depend on when you're in a life or death situation. You don't want to like misinterpret your
right.
colleagues you know intentions, right? So that's what I understand. But of course then I've seen movies like Full Metal Jacket, and I feel like okay,
You
maybe
know,
maybe
I
that's
have two brothers in the military. That definitely cursed a lot. But there is a protocol when you're in uniform where you're not really supposed to be f bombing and stuff. When you're in your like fatigues, combat fatigues, that kind of stuff, it's more common. But when you're in uniform, like what they call the Class A, like the dress uniforms, you're supposed to have a certain protocol and not curse
right.
and not, you know,
Well, Star Trek
respect the
takes it
uniform.
further, and then Michael Chabon, who I don't think is a lazy showrunner. I think
No,
he's
he's a
actually really
fantastic
great.
writer
Um, but Michael
and a
Chabon went
huge Star
on,
Trek fan.
yeah, yeah, and it shows. I think it shows. He went online and said that the cursing was something that they actually thought a lot about, and they chose, like, so they intentionally chose to go ahead with it because they felt that that kind of language would survive. And I kind of agree. Like I do think that the F word will survive in human culture. Like on Earth, it will be a local, just like in season 1 or season 2 of TNG, Picard in French will say merde all the time, which is shit. Like that's literally what he's saying. So if you wanted a reference to a Star Trek of the past where they use it, and I think that's clever too, because it backs up his statement about like the reason why you didn't curse in previous Star Treks is because you had to get around the censors. And it's true, in the films there's always been a tradition of light cursing. Star Trek 4 had cursing,
As a joke,
but it was still, I
where
agree.
all the
It was,
characters were like, "What?
yeah,
What?"
but I agree, but we know it was meant as a joke. Like it was still
Right.
done for humor. Star Trek Generations, I think, is the first time we hear Data, right? Like doesn't he say like
Somebody
holy
says something.
shit?
Yeah.
Data. It's like when the social section's gonna crash, he's like, holy shit. So like the films have always done it, but then I think it's clever that they got away with it by saying merde in French. They said shit on TNG, so you can kind of like say that they were cursing just in another language. So I don't know. Where I feel about the debate is that I'm just glad that Jean-Luc has not cursed. I'm actually like watching. I'm waiting for the moment because I love Blunt Talk, which Patrick Stewart's on, and he curses like a sailor on Blunt Talk, so I know he can do it well. Like when Picard, if Picard ever has to, if Jean Luc ever curses, I'm gonna be immediately like, oh my god, Patrick Stewart could probably
I
pull it
can't.
off.
To me, it's just lazy.
I don't think it's lazy.
They
I
couldn't
think
even
it's
be
I
clever
think
enough
it's
like
say
Battlestar Galactica and come up with a new word. Because language evolves, man. We don't even say groovy anymore,
I
and
like
that was
it.
a word from 40
Yeah.
years ago.
I like it. I think those reasons. I especially think
Like,
the fact, like I'm gonna make a prediction, and we'll revisit this. But I think Jean Luc will not curse at all in the whole series, and I think that's kind of like an
It's irrelevant
important.
to me at this point. It's too late now. Or they could have been clever and been like, oh, like how Tom Paris was a big fan of like 50s, 1950s Earth culture. You know, they could have made a character have that kind of little quirk. So then she uses the F bomb all the time because she's a fan of 80s, whatever. I probably wouldn't have been happy with that either because I think that's contrived as shit. But, like, at least build it into the character. It's like, no, it's just common. Even Romulan say, bite me! Bite me!
I don't know. I
Bite me! Eat
I
my
think
shorts!
I think if it's really a big if it's
I was
really a
waiting
big
for him to pull
deal,
out a Romulan skateboard.
I guarantee you, if it's really a big deal, because it happened with Discovery, there's gonna be a course correction in season 2, and no one's gonna curse watch. Like
I
that's
don't know
how
if
it
it's a
just
big. I mean,
started.
I don't know if it's how big of a deal. To me, it's just a sign of like it just makes it easier on the writing
I don't think so. I think
because you
they're
don't have to think
intentionally.
about it.
I think they're intentionally trying to put them in there for dramatic effect. I think they're trying to. I really don't think it's lazy. I think it's very intentional. Um, I was trying
Like
to.
saying fucking hubris kind of defeats the purpose of using the word hubris because fucking is already hubris in itself. So it's like
She's, but I
you
told
know,
you already.
it's it,
She's
it's so
she's
stupid.
Donald
It's stupid.
Trump. She's Donald. Of course, that space Donald Trump would make that
Space Donald
mistake. Like 100% the CNC of actually. I hope we haven't met the Federation president, but that person's probably way worse than the CNC, because if the CNC is that bad, the president's the real. I think we haven't met space Donald Trump. Actually, I think the
This
president.
president's not above the law.
No, but the Federation's gone to shit, and I think like that's something we haven't talked about, but it has gone to shit, and so I think Space Donald Trump is running the
Has it?
Federation.
I mean, we really
I think
don't
so.
know. They don't do
No,
world building.
who?
The show is very narrow.
It's totally
It's in a
huge.
bubble where
No,
you're not really understanding much of.
we're in a bubble.
I don't even think the show understands the difference between Federation and Starfleet. I think they think it's interchangeable, that they're
I
the
don't think
same
so.
thing.
Well, it is sort of not interchangeable, but the Federation's uh, military slash defense branch is Starfleet, and that includes.
Exploration branch. Starfleet is not military.
It's the
And see,
military
that's what
now.
I
That's
started
what I'm
thinking about.
telling
I
you.
did start thinking about
That's what
something.
I'm telling you.
I'm just lumping all of this in with the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, and that way I
Right.
don't have to care about it.
Well, in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, they call it a peacekeeping armada, but I feel like Starfleet has become a military. They're not concerned with exploration.
Because it's easier on the writing.
No.
Star Trek Next Generation and
Star. I
Deep
think
Space Nine
if
Voyager
you
were
can't
very hard
agree.
shows to write
Do you agree
because they
that
had
Star Trek?
hard, fast
Do you
rules.
agree that Star Trek has a kind of a duty to reflect current times and some of the strifes occurring? Because that's
Sure.
where I think. Okay, then if you agree with that, then this is their attempt. It may not be great to you, but I think they're doing their job. Like I don't think it's lazy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I think it's like they're trying their hardest to
I think
like.
they're doing their job in the laziest way possible.
You're such a mean.
Because
You'd be the
because
worst
think
boss.
about it. Think
I
about
would
think about
quit.
it.
I would
Think about
quit if you were
19.
the showrunner and you called me a lazy writer. I would
Oh
throw the
yeah,
script at
I'd
your
be a
face.
tyrant. I'd be
I
like, did
would
you just
throw.
put an F bomb in there? Did you just have someone say bullshit for
That's why.
no like
That's
just for the
why.
hell of it?
That's why
Get out of
neither.
here.
That's why neither of us are the showrunner. I'd be like, "How far can we go?" And you'd be like, "This is total shit. You're a lazy writer."
Think of yeah, because think about 1966 when Star Trek came out. The Cold War was on fire, and yet they
I
put a
can't.
Russian
I
on the
honestly
board.
can't.
They put Earth working together. It wasn't let's look at this cynical, depressed version. Let's look at the best of humanity. What's the best of humanity, and where are they facing, and how do they work together to conquer that? There's no more of these silly arguments. It was reflecting the times, but in a science fiction positive way, to to allow us to look at ourselves like we can be better than what we are.
I the
And
the
this show
the.
is saying, no, this is the best we could be. Even in the future, life's going to be a piece of shit too, and
I
everybody's going to
think.
hate each other.
I.
And and with infinite resources and replicators, we're still going to have like suffering and poverty. Like it's lazy. There's
There's none.
no
There's
Star
not.
Wars.
There's okay.
They've turned it into Star Wars. fully.
Jurassic Park, uh, Jurassic Park. Because I want to talk about. I also want to have some like. I I don't care about positive or negative, but I just this is a deep rabbit hole that I don't I don't want to go down yet. I have a lot of thoughts on everything you said, but it's just like I want to try to keep it to an hour and a half or 2 hours. So so it's my fault. But Jurassic Park. All right, I will say that I hope we can come back to talking about just as someone who once aspired to be a writer, I find it hard to critique writers, but you're an actual working writer, so it's a whole. I guess I don't have the confidence to critique a writer, so I do take your critiques on these writers seriously. I don't. I will just draw the line at I don't see the laziness, but I understand why you feel that way.
I
I
can
think
give you
they're actually.
examples of laziness forever.
I think we should do an
Forever.
episode. I think what we should
Soji
do.
and Hot Ramelin guy.
I think.
They're
Wait. Stop.
banging
Stop.
two
Stop.
hours after they meet. Oh, because we need
That
it.
that
We
has
need to get
happened
through
to
this
me.
relationship.
That
We
has
need to get through this
happened to
relationship
me though.
with
Hasn't that ever happened to you?
the guy that
I
she
am
just wonders, hey, how come you have no badge? You don't wear a uniform.
respecting
You don't wear. It's just some
uh,
guy I've been banging. And I have no idea anything about
respect
him.
respecting okay respecting the PG-13 of this show. That's happened to me. I've banged someone 2 hours after meeting them. It's a real. It's to me. It's realistic. It's I don't know. Maybe I'm a space whore. I don't know. Maybe Soji is too. I don't know, but I find that as real. I have gotten caught up in a romance that's intensely sexual, uh, like that. So I can relate.
It's
I
like
don't
a
know.
warning on this episode.
That's true. So to see again,
PG 13 plus.
I think I think in this case it's a matter of just like so where I do agree with you is that like I never remember the like when we're talking about this episode now, I never really remember the Borg parts because to me it's like I gather whatever expositionary information that I, personally I'm not interested in the romantic parts. Like I don't care about
They're
like
awful.
all well
The
it's
slide thing.
I like that. See, I thought that was romantic,
Like,
but ultimately,
what the
it's
fuck
not
is
the
going
plot
on?
line. Ultimately, that's not the plot line. What I'm here for is 100% like what's happened, what's going on, what happened 14 years ago. It's Jean Luc for me. It's Jean Luc 100%. So I know that Soji and Daj are going to be important. I just don't know how, and I'm
Well,
just
yeah, I mean,
waiting. I'm just
if you
waiting.
replaced Picard with just another character, and like let's say a show that had nothing to do with Star Trek, it was just everything's exactly the same except you replaced Picard and any Star Trekness with just other sci-fi stuff. The show's terrible. If it wasn't for Patrick Stewart,
No, see, I would watch it. I
there's
would still watch
nothing to
it.
hold on.
I don't think
None
the
of the
show.
other characters are interesting.
No, that's not true.
I mean,
I love
the
Captain
level of
Rios.
dumb on the show when Wolverine has
I
the
mean, I
thing
do
stuck in his
believe it's
arm.
true for you, but it's not true for me, Ruben. I'm like totally captive. I'm like, I love all the characters. My favorite, of course, is Elnor, as I've already stated. But I think a close second for me is Captain Rios. I really like that character. He reminds me a lot of like some of the great, like, what's his name? Okana. Remember that
Oh yeah,
guy?
yeah, I love Captain
He
O'Connor.
reminds me of Captain Okana, but not as he's like a more dark Captain Okana. I love that actor because again,
Yeah, he's
this.
O'Connor without any personality really, and he speaks Spanish. Ooh,
Oh my god, you're so mean.
ooh.
You don't see like a
It's because I'm at that point
personality?
with the show. Like, there's nothing interesting to me about the show, so now I just watch it to just be like, oh, another f bomb. Oh, look, how convenient. This they said,
No.
they said this, and now 2 seconds later it's
This is
happening.
so
Like,
dis
how convenient.
this is so
Like
dis
now I'm just picking apart the script constantly.
I'm so depressed now. But anyways, I will just continue to tell you what I'm so sad. I wanted to I thought of our friend Jisoo because I think she would love. All
All
right.
right,
So we're gonna hear an echo for a little while because we're recording the Skype
echo,
so that
echo,
the
echo.
audience we're gonna let the audience know what happened. We use a new system called Zen. This is an unsolicited plug for for Zencaster, which is the system we use for audio recording. In the middle of a very heated Star Trek Picard discussion, I accidentally clicked my mouse and hit the stop button on the recording. So now it's processing Ruben's audio, which is cool. You get to see how it works. Ruben didn't have to use the Martian. You didn't have to do anything. You just have to have a browser window open.
Yeah, yep.
And so now it's going to process his audio, upload it to my Dropbox, so I have the audio files, and he doesn't have to do anything. It's the laziest thing. This
Just
is the
like Star
lazy.
Trek Picard.
This is lazy. We're lazy podcasters. We don't have any technical equipment. We don't have GarageBand or any other program open. We're just using Zencaster and Skype to record our videos because our
Acosta.
What's that? What was that?
I don't know.
Was that a Romulan accent?
No, Romulan accent. I would just talk in my normal voice.
No, you would.
I'd do this with my eyebrows.
The Romulans are Irish now.
I did see how they do the eyebrows. I like that. They have like the fake eyebrow over the real eyebrow.
Oh, we're missing good stuff for the good audio.
I think they said that in one of the what's that? The Ready Room, right?
You watch it with Will Wheaton?
I've only watched one. I watched for some reason the second episode. I don't know why.
Will Wheaton's a controversial Star Trek figure. Are you a fan of his, or are you on the other side?
Well, I remember as kids, I never not liking him, but no, I'm a fan of his. I like a lot of the stuff he's done outside of Star Trek. I like him as a host of that show. He's really good at that. Yeah, I'm fine with him. I always thought they should make a character, show called Starfleet Academy, and have him come back as like a teacher or somebody, a prominent person at the school, and make it kind of about him and students, and and maybe have Picard show up every once in a while.
Did you ever meet Will Wheaton?
But of course, now that school would be like militaristic, and everybody would be whipped and dropping F-bombs. Episode 3 to me was god awful on every possible level, and that's it. It was just like I can't stand this show. It's going. If this was like your friend talked about it on the show, where he said that those first 3 episodes were like the 2-hour movie to intro the show. Right. And I started thinking about it. If you think about it as a 2-hour movie, it does nothing.
What are you talking about?
Wait, you could do all those episodes in like 45 minutes and still have more, but they don't. They're just like everything takes forever, or it's convenient. I'm not going to go with you, Picard. Screw you. Okay, I'm going with you, Picard, but not because I like you. Eleanor, now you need me because, whatever. I'm not going with you, Picard. 2 seconds later, I'm going with you, Picard. Like, it's soap opera. It's soap opera. It's so bad.
It's space opera.
That's Star Wars. Star Wars is space opera.
No, Star Trek is the one that coined that term. That was if I'm not mistaken, that was a William Shatner coined term that he used to describe Star Trek, which is space opera. Or it might have been Gene Roddenberry. Either they're interchangeable as far as I'm concerned. But so wait, it already uploaded.
Damn that
it's
bug.
Processing my audio still, but I think it uploaded.
It was coined in 1941 by Wilson Tucker.
Oh, that's cool. But no, I'm talking about the first time I ever heard it referred to that way is either Gene Roddenberry.
I mean, it probably does refer to both. Any drama that happens in space.
Before we continue, I just want to ask, on your screen, did it say upload complete? You can close this window. Don't close the window if it did. But if it
you're all done. All your tracks are finished uploading, and it is now safe to close this tab.
So don't close the tab.
But I can hit OK. Got it.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, because we're gonna start recording again as soon as my audio finishes.
Okay.
Sorry, but isn't that cool?
It's really neat. Just like
you don't have to do any work.
And there's no loss in sound quality or anything?
So I had my settings. So it's different. There are some glitches, but it's so minor that again, just like in Star Trek, there are some glitches. But I don't care. I got to talk to you about some stuff because we haven't even done the summary. And it's all right. We have 33 minutes.
We got to Orphan Boy Raised by Nuns. Screw this show.
That's you. I'm like trying to show you how much I love it. But you're getting mad at me. I have to say Jurassic Park just to feel safe. All right, I think. Hold on. Oh, it's still processing my audio. Damn it! Damn it!
I saw the first episode of Lock and Key on Netflix.
What is that?
It's a new series based on a graphic novel. I've never read the book, but it's about a family that moves into their father's like ancestral home, and it's one of these like gothic, New England area houses that has
Oh.
like it has like the old school locks, like skeleton keys.
Oh no way!
And
Have you ever
so
actually used a lock like that?
no, I've always wanted to though. And I saw them in Europe. And so yeah, basically one of the kids starts finding keys, and then so the house is like magical,
Oh,
and so different keys do different things. It's pretty interesting.
that's coming next on the Borg Cube. You're going to be able to. They've stolen the Borg. Actually, we find out that the Borg assimilated the. What were those people called? The Iconians long ago, and they actually have gateway technology, just like the Iconian. Do you remember that episode of TNG?
Yeah.
So could you imagine that shit? Like the Borg can actually like send drones to any point in the galaxy just using this Iconian technology that they assimilate. Why is my audio still processing and yours is done? I don't understand what's wrong. I hope we didn't lose it all. All of that anger.
Oh, we gotta add whenever I rant, you gotta add to tell your fans to reply in the comments of what they think. I'm telling you,
I
man.
agree.
I'm taking it up a notch. I gotta be the antagonist here.
I like it. I like it. It's because I like you. But I'm but I'm waiting. Oh, I have a thing. I'm gonna show you now. Oh, you can't hear it. Wait, maybe you can. Look, I when you're out of control, I can do this. Isn't that great?
Red alert.
And if we have a guest come in the middle, I can do this. Yeah,
Did
hold
they
on.
have they said what Rios's ship was designed for? I forget. They mentioned it, I think, in the last episode, right? That it was a ship
No,
made for some reason, but it was decommissioned or something.
I never caught that. I watched it like 70 million times, and I'm not
Or
sure.
maybe they were talking about another ship, but they never said what his ship was designed for, right?
Based on the next episode preview, it's some kind of like a battle runner. Like a ship that runs and can battle. So it's a freighter of some kind, like a little, like a. I think he's yeah. Can we?
Millennium Falcon.
No, it is. It's like he's Han Solo. That I agree with you. I agree that this is a Han Solo type character. But I thought Okano was too.
Yeah, O'Connor was kind of like that. Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
space pirate. So is Han Solo. I mean, like if you want to distill what both characters are, they're both space pirates, right? They're like, yeah. Is Santiago Cabrera going to be better than Harrison Ford? I don't know yet, but I like Santiago Cabrera from Merlin. I don't know if you remember him or if you ever watched
The
Merlin.
BBC Merlin.
Yeah, he was Lancelot.
Oh.
Yeah, because he's not using his real accent, which is an English accent. He's an English actor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Well, he does use it.
Well, I mean, I like him. Well, he's one of my favorite actors on the show, mostly because I like that whole gimmick of the hologram. So he gets to kind of play different
Different.
characters, you
Yeah,
know.
as an actor, I think that's like a great
So
place
I
to
like
be.
that, and he does a good job at it.
Yeah, I like all his.
Of the
Yeah,
crew, the only actor I don't like is Raffi.
I loved her in
I
this
think she's
episode more
awful.
than last episode. I think she's great. Michelle Hurd to me is awesome, and I think she's just like very like. I like her. I liked in this episode. Oh, we can't talk about this stuff. I'm not recording it in the professional audio. Can we just? we gotta wait. We gotta wait. Wait. Tell me about the Twilight Zone. Tell us? Let's audience. We're having a lo-fi moment here, and during this lo-fi moment, Ruben's gonna tell us about the Twilight Zone. I'm gonna cut all this out
Uh,
probably too.
Twilight Zone on CBS is really really good. I've seen 8 of the 10 episodes so far. There's only one that I'm really like, it was okay, but even the one they actually remade the famous episode with Shatner, 30
I'm gonna
Night.
risk. Oh, I don't want to risk it. Damn it! I'm gonna try recording because
Does it
everything
have like a progress bar to let you know how much you
it
have left?
says processing audio, and I don't know what that means. I think I might have lost it. Let me see if Zencaster support is online at this hour. Oh no, they're not. That's okay. This is this is good feedback for Zencaster. How long is the audio gonna? Why did yours process so fast? Excuse me, I just burped. All right, if I hit new recording, let's see what it says. You might lose data that is currently being processed. Are you sure? Cancel. No, I don't want to lose the data. I'm going to open a new window and see what happens. Dashboard. There's a backup. Oh. I'm going to look in the articles and see how backups work. Give me a... Hey, if you want to take a bathroom break, that's the beauty of podcasting.
Yeah, I'll go get something to drink actually.
All right, cool. And I'll figure this shit out. Sorry, Ruben.
No problem. I have a theory too that Soji, I was gonna call her Daj again. Soji isn't Data's daughter,
I'm gonna send
but
you.
it's the continuation of Data's consciousness.
Oh, I agree with that. But wait, we gotta talk about it. I love this. All right.
There was a little head tilt she does in this episode that I was like, that's totally Brent Spiner's Data. And I was like,
All right, click on that second link. All right, audience, we have potentially corrected our audio problem. We're going to clap one more time. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. Does that bother Janet?
She's asleep.
Okay, that was good. It's just a little. It's just a little clap. All right, so we could talk lower now. Maybe we won't yell at each other. We won't be like Picard and everyone in his life who yells at him.
I'm leaving this show. All right, I'm staying, but
before we cut out, we were talking, and you were starting to say about how you think that Daj is actually a continuation of Data. What did you?
Right.
Wanna...
There was just a moment in the episode where she's walking with Narek, right? That's the Romulan guy. And he says something interesting, and she does this like very Data head tilt.
I didn't
That
catch
was like
that.
very
I
spot
can't
on.
wait to see it again.
Yeah. And so I just thought that was interesting. Just made me think.
I'm
I
gonna
was like,
for the sake of time, I'm gonna take over the summary and let you interrupt, because otherwise, I don't think we'll ever get through it. I can't help myself. I'll tell it from my cheery perspective, and you can.
How many times have you watched the episode?
Twice.
Oh, you should probably do it anyway because you probably know it better than I do.
I actually don't probably know it better. Like, I love doing the summaries with PJ because he actually writes notes. I don't take any notes.
Well, I do that the second time I watch.
I do that for so the insanity of Starfleet Boy is that I will have another discussion on Saturday, probably with Sean and Gary. Starfleet Boy can't stop talking about Picard. So during that session is and you can hop on one of those if you want to be a part of the later discussion.
Saturday.
Those are Saturdays that one takes place. It's like a fun thing. Maybe this Saturday if you're around. Oh, by the way, it's 2 hours away from Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to you and the audience. This episode is going to air on Valentine's Day, actually, so it's our Valentine's Day special.
Oh,
That's a cool thing. I've never had a Valentine's Day special. Tomorrow, I might be recording with a friend who I haven't spoken to in 20
I thought you were gonna
years.
say 14 years.
No, that I literally just reconnected. It wasn't that long, but it's about 14 years, and we reconnected. And on top of that, we've never met in real life.
Oh,
He's a virtual friend. Do you
virtual friend.
remember how I was on the internet way before everyone else?
Yeah,
And you were too. I
yeah
think we were both on.
we were very early adopters of
We
all
had
that
pen
stuff.
pal. Did you ever do the pen pal thing like I did though? Did you go crazy and start meeting people all over the world?
Well, later on when I played Second Life, I made
That's a
friends
great.
everywhere
I
that I
have a
still
lot
have to
of
this day.
not safe for work stories to tell about Second Life that we could talk about on Drunk Space Nine.
And
Uh,
then I play
now that I
MMOs, massive multiplayer online games.
right,
And so actually recently in December I had lunch with a girl who's the guild leader in one of the guilds I'm in
that's
Elder Scrolls Online.
crazy.
And so she has family in West Palm Beach and she was down visiting them for the holidays. And so we met in Fort Lauderdale, had lunch for like, we hung out for like 4 hours. Yeah, it's pretty fun. And once when I divorced my first wife, I actually had plotted out a course of visiting all my Second Life friends in real life
Whoa,
and
did you
doing
do
like a
it?
road trip to each, just staying a day or two in each. No, I never did it because I'm a man whore, and
A spa-
I was always dating somebody, so I was like, I can't leave for 3 weeks.
You're a spaceman whore, just like Soji.
I'm
See,
Okana.
you can relate.
I'm like so
Or
cheap.
Okana, it's true. Soji and Okana are both space, and Starfleet Boy we're all space whores. This episode's gotten really weird of Starfleet Boy, by the way. I just want to say,
Space
it's going into
pants.
territories that I never thought it would. So going with the summary, so 14 years ago, Captain Picard is reading to this kid Romulan, kid named Elnor, and he has a lot of cute bonding moments with him. And then, you can kind of see hints of like Picard would have actually made a great father had he settled down and gotten married, possibly with Beverly, but even maybe with Vosh, or I think did he have a romantic interest past Lily? He couldn't marry because she was in the past, but
What about that one from Insurrection?
oh yeah, they could have totally had a kid together.
Right, that was
By the way, can I just I'm going to say something outrageous right now. That's what it feels like watching Picard for me is when he sits and she teaches him how to slow down time. When I'm watching Picard for the first time, like every new episode, time stops and I'm just totally immersed in like just the beauty of like watching every minute of this beautiful man Patrick Stewart perform this character that I love in the best way I've ever seen. Can we agree on that he's just on fire?
he's Patrick Stewart.
He's
He nails it
insane,
every time.
right? Like he nails it every time. Did you notice his voice in this episode? Like when he did the full when he actually like commands in the fight later on. Okay, see, I'm skipping ahead. I've done the same thing to myself that I was doing to you. Obviously, I can't
We
I
can't even
can't
get
control
past just the kid being raised
Kid
by
Elton.
nuns.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna have to do this. I was afraid that I'm gonna have to do this to myself. Audience, we're trying really hard to stay on track here, but unfortunately, we can't. I couldn't do it. I couldn't stay on track. All right. So then 14 years later, we're back at Chateau Picard, and I thought it was going to be a dream sequence. And Jean Luc is looking outside the window, and then he says, hold, and the birds pause. And then we realize he's in the most updated version of a holodeck we've ever seen so far. This is like the first holodeck we've seen so the ship, the La Sirena, has a holodeck, and apparently, which I find totally darling and totally amazing, is that you could just take Chateau Picard with you wherever the fuck you go.
Yeah, good way of
Sorry, I
saving
just
on
cursed.
production costs.
And you can take Chateau Picard with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
Like, he totally doesn't need Chateau Picard in the way that like we need home. It's wherever he wants to go. Jabon will scan. Jabon's gonna use one of his Romulan Tal tech to scan the fucking state of Chateau Picard every morning when he wakes up, and Picard will have a live, fresh version of Chateau Picard available to him wherever he goes. And I just love it. I just ate that shit up, loved it. I want Chateau Picard to
Wherever
follow
you
me
go.
around wherever I go. In fact, I go to work and I sit in a little box and then it's Chateau Picard. I'm okay with that. I would
Yeah.
commute 20, maybe 50 miles to work at Chateau Picard.
20, maybe 50 miles.
So to me, that was just awesome. And then after that, we go back to, so we discover that well, I skipped another part, which is Rafi's pissed off because she finds out that Jean-Luc has redirected the ship to go to Vashti, uh, which connects to the flashback we had at the beginning, the pre-credits sequence. Oh, I don't remember if you liked the music in the opening credits or not.
It's grown on me, as I thought it would.
Did you see the YouTube video? I'm sorry, audience, I don't have the source. I'll try to post it on the description. But there's a YouTube video, a guy who caught. So you remember the episode The Inner Light, right?
Hmm.
The tune that da 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 da, right?
Hmm.
uh the son of Jean-Luc's counterpart in The Inner Light is playing that same melody on his flute. Remember
Oh,
later on?
all
So
right.
it's in the scene. So it's the same melody. It's that so that's the theme of Picard. And I knew I loved it, but I thought like, oh, why didn't they just do the Inner Light theme? Like that would have been cool, right? But they did it in a way that I think is not obvious, or Jeff Russo gets all the
Right.
credit for this, but I think he did it in a way that's not obvious, and I don't think a lot of people have caught on to it because I certainly didn't notice it. I just liked it, but I never connected it. And then I went and so I saw the YouTube video and I was like, no. Then I watched the episode on Netflix and I was like, holy shit, it's there. It's very obvious
Nice.
that like it's inspired by that. So that was a pretty cool thing. Anyways, so post credits, Rafi's kind of upset, so she barges into the holodeck, and we find out that the captain has another emergency hologram. It's the emergency hospitality hologram, and he's like
Why not?
he's like but I love it. He's like, I hate that fucking hospitality hologram. And do you notice the holograms? They all shut themselves off when he comes in the room. Like he's awful to them. Like they're like he knew the
Yeah,
hospitality
that
hologram was
one
like,
definitely
oh,
was like,
gotta,
I'm out.
yeah. He was like, I gotta go. He's like,
This guy's gonna do some crazy positronic or no, what was the doctor made out of on Voyager?
oh, I
Oh my
don't
god,
know.
I'm
See,
drawing a blank.
you have a little bit more knowledge than I do on that part.
I'm drawing a blank. It's a scientific term for light, but I can't think about it. Uh,
Photonic.
yeah, that's it. Photons, and he wrote the book Photons and some shit.
I just
Um,
popped the cherry that was in my drink.
Nice.
It was really good.
Do,
Wait. So
do,
then,
do,
so
do,
then
do.
after that, so after Rafi, after the captain comes in, then after Rafi comes in and yells at Jean Luc, then the captain comes in, and then Agnes comes in, and they're all having a meeting, and then we get like a expositionary scene, kind of catching us up and giving us a download on all the shit that Rafi knows about it because she remembers it, but neither Agnes nor Rios know about it. And this scene reminded me a lot about a lot of TNG because Dr. Girardi was totally the Riker in a sense of like how we always used to say that like Riker pretty much repeats all the techno babble,
Right,
but in
in like plain
English,
speak. Yeah.
in plain speak. So there was a degree of that, but also she was the audience in a sense. She was inquiring about things that like so we could learn. And I know, what do you call those, exposition bombs? Like, it didn't feel like one of those to me. I felt it
Well,
was very natural.
in this episode, I didn't feel like there was a lot of. It was done
That
much better. Again, Michael
much
Chabon.
better.
Yeah. And again, the directing and editing in this episode, especially over the last episode, it's just like two different shows. I don't know who the hell directed the last one, but or
It
as
was so
particularly editing the last one, because the editing on the last episode was so soap opera, and then here was much more kind of standard, but in a good way. Standard for these kind of
so
shows.
so I disagree because I liked the directing, obviously, but just so you know, Hanali Culpepper
Hanley Goldberger.
is the director of the first three episodes, and
See, it must
I
have been
yeah
who, and who's the editor? Is it the same
I
editor?
I don't know. We'd have to look it up, but I'm afraid to do anything to my window now because of the
I'll
fucking
do
technical problems. So, well, but then we might have technical problems on your end. Don't hit anything. Don't do it.
But go continue with the thingamabobbing.
So yeah, so that'd be interesting to find out. Again, really funny how we diverge because I didn't notice any problems. I liked the whatever you call it, the triptych. I call it the first three episodes a lot. But I do agree that Jonathan Frakes is a superior director, in the sense that I feel like he is familiar, to the way we're used to seeing Star Trek directed, and that's a little bit of what I saw in this scene. There was a very TNG vibe with the exposition and the download of information. It was very like, collaborative, and they were all like, each character got like equal screen time, and like how everyone's explaining everything to Agnes. Like, it's great because she wouldn't know what any of those things are. She even says this is her first time in space. Like, she's a very green character in that sense, so it's very believable and very buyable, I suppose. But we find out that um, Picard has felt guilty about leaving not just Elnor behind, which he assumed, we find out later, that Elnor would have found a family. He was actually surprised to see Elnor was still with the sisters, with the nun. That's what they call him, Sister Boy. I remember now. That was the insult that the other Romulans gave to him. In the beginning, it's kind of cute. They're like, Sister Boy, or whatever it was, and then later it's used like, hey, Sister Boy, you might have a sword, but that's nothing next to a blaster. He's totally, Romulan Han Solo
That's why we attacked you with our swords first.
McClunky. uh if Elnor says McClunky, will you forgive all the problems in in the
Or
show?
I
Will
was
you?
hoping you'd say they'd just say the line from Lord of the Rings. You have my blade, or whatever.
I really wish he had said that too, actually. But anyways, so we find out that Picard feels guilty about what happened, but he wants to go to this planet Vashti because he thinks he needs a hired gun, or a hired sword in this case. He doesn't know if he wants to first of all see if the boy is still, what's become of the boy. That's what he wants to know. He feels immensely guilty about never following up about that, which, I will admit, like, I'm kind of pissed about that. Like, yeah, 20 years, like, like subspace communications, like, they're definitely not primitives living on Vashti. They have, you know, technology, and like, honestly, like, if I were Picard, I would have totally been like, how old is Eleanor now, nun, sister? And they would have been like, 15. Send him over for harvest. We'll show him how to make grapes. We'll show him how to turn grapes into wine.
I need some
Chateau
child
Picard.
labor on my chateau.
All the Romulans can come live on Chateau Picard, not just Jabon and Naris. So he is kind of a dick, for never thinking of. And he even says, like, "Did you miss me?" in that later scene, and Picard's like, "Yeah," but he's lying because he didn't miss him for 14 years. It's
14
crazy.
years.
I still cried. I still loved it when Picard said, "I did miss you. I did miss you." You know what it felt like? It felt like to me that he was saying it to me, like, "Sohail, I missed being on TV for you for 14 years. Like, I have missed you just as much as you've missed me." And I cried like a baby. And I thought to myself, like, if I had any life, if I lost my parents tragically in a in a supernova accident and I was orphaned, I would want no better life than to become a space samurai nun that
Space right.
that gets to protect Picard. Like that would be my ultimate joy in life, to be that character. Like Elnor to me represents like my dream character.
Picard
If
comes
someone
to.
if Dungeons and Dragons released like a Star Trek expansion, like Sigil but Star Trek, I wouldn't know what they would call it. They'd name the universe something, but it was all Star Trek. I would carry my medieval elf character from there, and that's exactly who he would be. He would be Elnor. Dexterity 11, acrobatics 27.
head
Those are the starting stats.
head chopping
Be-
ability plus
9 million.
9 billion.
Beauty and charisma off the charts. Unlimited. Roll the die. You rolled a 4? Oh, unlimited beauty and charisma.
The head still gets chopped off.
Yeah. You rolled a 1, the head still gets chopped off. It's so true. Yeah, Elnor's my dream character. I'm in love with Elnor. I'm just saying it right now. And I forbid you from speaking ill of Elnor. No
It
Ilnor
has
on
to wait till
Starfleet
next
Boy.
episode when they explore him a little more, and then it's like, oh, you're just another kind of
Do you
one
think
note
I'll?
character.
I don't think that's gonna. I don't think that's gonna happen because the little teaser that Will Wheaton showed me, I was already cracking up when he's like, "Why didn't I get a character? Like, why didn't I get a little?" Did you see the teaser?
No, what a cameo?
At the end of it, if you don't watch the Ready Room for anything, at the end of the Ready Room, the last like 2 minutes, Will Wheaton always shows an extended, never before extended scene from the next episode, and they showed a
Oh,
really
right,
cool
right. Because when
scene
I saw,
from.
yeah, I saw the episode 1. Yeah, I don't really watch the Ready
Okay,
Room thing, but it's pretty good though.
so So Picard comes back and he asks the main nun, who I loved, who you thought was a bad actor, who I don't know who that performer is, but maybe you can look them up. But Picard asks her. He says, "I'm not worthy of this, but I'd like your help in to I'd like to have one of your sister nuns protect me on my quest." And she basically says, oh, and he's surprised to see Elnor, and they have a little exchange where she's like, both of us did things we didn't do things that we dreamt of doing, because like in the flashback she said that she would find him a home, but I think she kind of thought Picard would do that. So booyah to him again. It all falls on poor Picard, who admittedly was negligent. So anyways, she's like, there's a lot, we get a lot of regret again from Picard, which we're not used to seeing, but obviously like it's kind of like it makes sense if you've ever gone back to your past, and especially if your past has like things you regret. Sometimes when you have to face them, it can be like a hard thing to go through. So he's going through a lot of shit in this, and again, not used to seeing that from Picard. But anyways, she suggests that Elnor be the one to go with Picard, and he's like, why Elnor? And she says that, well, basically he's like, Elnor could die on this mission that I'm going on. It's like like it's a dangerous, and he even suggests that also in the holodeck scene when Rafi's like Jean-Luc, like, or JL, like she likes to call him. I don't remember if she calls him that, but she's like, remember what we used to say, one impossible thing at a time, stay on mission, let's go to um what's it called,
Cloud, free
free
cloud.
cloud. And he's like, I have no idea if I'll ever pass this way again. I have to make peace with what I did to these people. I abandoned them, the Vashti uh, colony. So anyways, I forgot to mention also that like in the flashback when he beams in, he's like Jolan True, and everyone's like, la la la, we love you. And then in this scene when he beams down, there's like a lot of like, it looks like a western, more like a western. In the previous scene, it looked like a happy village in like,
Like a burgeoning
somewhere.
settlement.
Yeah, and it looked like it was in the Himalayas to compare it to an Earth settle. It looked like you were like going to like some exotic Himalayan mountain elfland, right? it looked very happy and looked like there was a lot of potential. But then later when he comes back, there's like signs that say no humans allowed, or Romulans only, and there's like a lot of like, it looks like it's just run down and like not like what he thought it was going to be. He thought it was going to be the same vibe, and it totally wasn't. So he's super depressed about that. And then he goes and she says something that I thought was really great, which was that like, of course he's gonna die. He is gonna die. That's like her prediction. They're kind of like, she's kind of like a
Force
little bit
sensitive.
like, uh, uh, well, both Vulcans and Romulans have psychic abilities,
Right.
so it's okay.
And have some sort of minor telepathy. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
depending on
minor
how
self.
much they've developed it, right?
And these nuns are definitely like fully developed. I mean, like the flips and
Right.
shit that he does later on. I mean, like you can't just do that. They're
Right.
like
They're
the
a Jedi.
they're Jedi, but like a space Jedi or Star Trek Jedi,
Not
whatever. They're
Jedi.
just nuns. They're nunny. They're nunya.
I
They're
don't say it
nunya
as a bad thing
business.
either. It's just whatever comparing it
Gotcha,
to,
gotcha, gotcha. Comparing it to, okay, I see.
or what are the people in Dune?
Oh, I like that better actually. The Bene Gesserit. That's what they remind me of. 100%. Yeah, it's true. That's a good comparison.
Yeah.
That means that you just made my favorite character even cooler because he's like Paul Atreides. He's the man among the women order that
Spice.
knows their ways. He can never be one of us, for he is the Kwisatz Haderach. Picard has the Kwisatz Haderach with him. That's insane.
And
The
I think
Romulan Kwisatz Haderach.
Timothy Chalamet is playing that character now, right?
That's when I stopped thinking about Elnor.
When Dune comes out.
When Dune comes out, I'll abandon Elnor and I'll focus on Paul Atreides.
I'm
But
really
yeah.
bad. I need to watch Blade Runner 2049. I
Ooh,
haven't watched it yet.
you should watch it. I'd be curious to see how you pick that apart.
Well, and
Jurassic
yeah,
Jurassic Park.
and I was never a huge fan of the original either.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I love the visuals, but I always tell people, I'm like, the story, it sucks, people. Like, it just
I
sucks.
love it.
Like,
See,
it doesn't do
it's very
anything.
different. That's what I love about it. That's what I
It's
kind of love about the first three episodes of Picard. I think that's why. I think that's
gonna
why
waste
we
3 hours of your life.
It doesn't. It's just that it fills you with so much information about the like the state of affairs. Like, you know what I like? So okay, this you can argue with me on this. I don't care. I already know what you're gonna say. No, I don't really know, but I'm assuming you're gonna hate what I say right now. You tell me. But what I like about Picard is that in the past you got like a quick, like like okay, Deep Space Nine starts. You get a text document that tells you what's going on, and then you get like an amazing battle sequence, and then you flash forward into the future. What I like about Picard, the thing that I think you did make a joke about, I don't know if you like it or not, but you made a joke about it earlier, is that I do like that we don't know what happened 14 years ago, that we're finding out little snippets of it in every episode in the form of like a dream sequence or a prologue. And so I do love that. That's the kind of stuff that I really enjoy. So I guess I like that kind of drama
Yeah, it's
and
like
or
the Steven
whatever.
Spielberg kind of bookend thing they're doing, except they don't really do it at the end and the beginning. It seems like
Right.
every episode
It's
is going back to
every
this
episode has
pivotal,
one.
pivotal 14-year mark where everything happened.
And just looking at these four episodes on their own, I also like that like episode 1 it's Jean-Luc, episode 2 it's Rafi centric, episode 3 is um
Sort of.
uh so episode 1 and 2 give you episode 1 gives you Agnes and Jean-Luc, right? It gives you Jean-Luc, we're already familiar with. They don't really have to spend too much time. I mean, Patrick Stewart's just nailing it, right? So we get Agnes in the first one, we get Rafi in the second one, we get Rios in the third one. There's overlap. We definitely meet,
Right, yeah,
but episode 3 is more about Rios, and now episode
yeah.
4 is about Elnor. So each episode, is about one of the characters that potentially we're gonna see for like at least 3 seasons. If Patrick Stewart stays true to his interview, he said maybe there's 3 seasons in this. But even if we get one season, we really need to like love these characters, and even if you don't love them, you at least get to know information about them when you're spending time with each of them kind of as a focal point. So now we're past that. We don't need anything about 7 of 9. We know her. We know Hugh, although they're also going to be different. You could tell already. So anyways, Picard makes his plea to Elnor because she says that poignant line that I don't know if I got to this already, but she says, I know he's gonna die, but I want him to live before he does.
I
And that's
just
a beautiful.
I just
What
got a
happened?
little. Oh, it went away.
What happened?
It was like a light blue screen came over your image, and it was the link from Zencast, and then it went away.
Wow. It didn't show up on the recording, so that's fine. That's interesting.
So sorry. Continue.
Oh, so anyway, she says I want him to live before he dies. So it's kind of cool because, that's like her hope is like on this planet all he does is like their bidding and like stuff that this was never supposed to be his life. He's never going to be accepted as a sister warrior nun, Romulan nun. So even though he's trained in all their ways, he'll never be known as their like there's no room for men in that order at all.
Right, they just don't allow men in there. Yeah.
And she always assumed that Picard's fondness for him would translate to somehow that connection growing, but that never happened. So she had to deal with this kid herself. Like Picard abandoned them. And she says it also in that other line, and she's nice about it. That's what I like too. She doesn't. She's the only character that doesn't yell at him, uh, you know, throughout about all the things. But she's like, I don't blame you, but I did the best I could. Like I thought you were gonna help me figure out this kid, and you didn't. In fact, you didn't help anyone. And he says, I traded perfection. He's like, I was seeking perfection. He was
Right.
seeking
Perfect
in
is the
his
enemy
mind.
of good.
Yeah, in his mind, it was like save everyone or I failed. When he could have saved a world or
Mhm.
20 people or 100 people, and that would have been enough. But he actually just like gave up, which I can also understand because I feel that sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I get it. It's like I want an outcome so badly that it's all or nothing.
I feel
And
like
in this
that's a
case,
more interesting TV show.
but that's what. Why did I see that and you didn't see that in
No,
this TV show?
that no them doing that show about that era of Picard's life, not being told about it constantly every episode after episode, that just makes Picard look like a bigger dick every episode.
I don't
Not
think.
only does he forget about the little boy, he lives with two Romulans and doesn't think about the boy for 14 years. Like, okay, sure.
But what I like about it is that he's kind of honest about it. He does say that he thought of him and he missed him, but he's like at the end, what I like about it, the episode title again is absolute candor. And it's hard for Elnor to hear. It's so hard for Elnor to hear that he like says "fuck you, old man," but not again. He doesn't swear. But Picard says the reason I'm asking you is because you're younger than. He just says it in a very like honest way. He's like, you're younger than me. I'm old, and I need your strength and your training.
I've come to
100%.
use you. Even though he said in like episode 2 when they're like, "Oh, why don't you get Riker and Geordi to come help you as his new crew?" Ah, I can't put them at risk again. So you're gonna put these other people at risk? Hey, little boy that I abandoned. I know I abandoned you, but why don't you come on a death-defying mission with me? Because I'm too old and I can't die. You need to do dying.
Oh my god, Picard's awful. He's gonna send all of these people to their graves. No, I think the obvious counter argument is they're all getting old, and he can't. He like it's just not gonna work. He doesn't have a data. He doesn't have a data. Troy and Riker are married and have a kid. Why would he do that to Riker or Troy?
I don't know. I don't know
Like,
why anything's happening really.
no, but think about it. Like, I wouldn't like if you like you're married. I wouldn't call you on an adventure that took you away from your married life. I wouldn't do that to you. Like I love you and I think you'd be very formidable, but we're both we're both 41. If I had the choice between you and a Romulan like ninja, I would choose Romulan ninja. Of course, I would. There's a way better chance of success that I would actually come out of it, and everyone else would come out of it alive with a younger, more you know more agile, for lack of a better word, crew. So again, Picard does think in what I think on first appearance is like perhaps a very you know perhaps cold way, but it's actually really smart if you think about it, especially from the perspective of oh, and that's another thing I thought, which we'll get to. But anyways, so I like all that stuff. But anyways, so Elnor says fuck you, fuck you, old man, in an Australian accent, which is the first time we hear an Australian accent, I think, on Star Trek TV, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe. Yeah.
Could be. But Romulans are very interesting. They have Irish accents and Australian accents and like English accents. It's a very interesting way the universal translator tackles Romulans. But it makes us hear it in the closest proximate accent that we have on Earth that we're used to. Um, so Elnor says no, and Picard's dejected, and there's like a 7-minute window before he can beam back aboard the La Serena. And in the meantime, a ship that they had made an allusion to earlier during that scene in at Chateau Picard, virtual Chateau Picard, was that Picard was actually kind of naive and unaware because he's didn't follow up with anyone that this area had fallen under like sort of like for lack of a better word, under like a a dictatorship or kind of like more like a mafia controlled
Mhm.
region of space. And there's this opposing group called the Fenris Rangers, but apparently they don't have enough funding or resources. So basically the area is dangerous, right? So like this is the hood of space, which I hate to call the hood that because I like the hood. We have great things in the hood, like wonderful, beautiful things, but just to kind of shorthand,
Yeah,
it's
it
like
was
a
just
very
a rundown
rundown part
planet
of
that's been mismanaged, let's say.
right, right. I apologize if I offended anyone with saying that this is the hood of outer space. I didn't mean it like that. Sorry. Anyways, unlike Picard, I'm conscientious of what comes. No, I'm just kidding. I love Picard. He's not. He's wonderful. Um, so he's kind of just decides to do what old people do, which I've seen like like my dad do this kind of thing where you're like, oh my god, you're gonna get shot and killed, and he takes down the Romulans only sign, throws it on the ground, goes into the local watering hole, and sits down and asks for help and starts antagonizing the locals. And he thinks it's all good. He's like, this is it. And so then this former Romulan senator, who's now just like I guess a sheriff, he carries a sword, uh, and a blaster as well, like a disruptor, I guess, right? Hey, Romulans are people of honor. We've already established this. They
Sure,
will fight you with a sword
sure.
first before they pull out
Sword
the
first.
the disruptor. uh, Also, we didn't talk about this, but earlier there's this like when we go back to Kid Elnor, they're fencing, and I ate that up too. That
I
was
thought you
just
would. I thought of you during that. I always think of you. I always think of you and Yazoo uh, when it comes to fencing.
exactly. So again, so this Romulan senator basically says like we get a little, more anger towards Picard, and Picard kind of at first is like, no, I promise you, that's not what we were intending to do, because the Romulans are basically accusing the Federation of dividing them in order to conquer them. So apparently, the way that they interpret it is that the Federation chose to scatter the Romulan Empire, and that's why there's no more Romulan Empire, which we know because it's called the Romulan Free State, which we get in an earlier episode. So the Empire is gone, and it's called the Romulan Free State, and it's friendly with the Federation, but up to a point, and it looks like indeed like the Romulan Empire took a huge hit when it comes to like both death toll and like this one Romulan says they were scattered all over. So they're like just they're a fractured people where once they were an empire, a very solid empire. So they blame him. They said like I he says I was there when you made the speech and you were like don't worry. We have plenty of space in the Delta Quadrant. No, I don't know what he said, but apparently it even made this former senator cry or get teary eyed, and again, just more anger towards Picard. So then the scene escalates, and he asks one of his henchmen for a sword, and he gives it to Picard, and Picard actually does a good job of blocking. But then he refuses to fight the whole time, which is very in character with Picard. But he actually blocks this Romulan's attack and then throws his sword on the ground. And he's like, yo, I'm not gonna fight you, but that's it. Come on, we can settle our differences. And the Romulan's like, no, we can't. Sorry, if you're not gonna fight. And then all of a sudden, Elnor comes out of nowhere, and he's like, friend, I hope you decide to live today. And the guy's like, whatever. And then all of a sudden he does crazy ass like acrobatics and slices the head of the Romulan. And I loved it. I ate that shit up. I was so excited. I was hooting and hollering at the screen. I was like, yeah. And I was like so happy that
That
our
was
admiral.
decapitation on Star Trek.
Yes, I was. I already think that, this if this doesn't prove it, this show is definitely not for audiences under the age of 15 or 14. It's not like Star Trek: The Next Generation, where I think you could safely introduce it to even a 7-year-old and get away with it because there's a lot of innuendo, but not really overt, sort of
Right.
suggestions. But definitely an 11-year-old could watch TNG safely, in my opinion. Not this show. I would be in fact, and I hate to do this. I'm so like I really support everything Star Trek does, but they have this kid watching the episodes named Jude, and he's like 7 years old, and I'm like, really? Like, you're letting this kid watch this? And I respect the parents' choice in raising their children and everything, but I don't know. I'm having a tough time getting over uh the idea that I just don't think kids should be introduced to this kind of violence and sexuality and all the profanity but maybe I'm an old fashioned person. That
Remember,
being said,
kids, if you meet somebody on a platform who talks to you for like 3 minutes, sleep with them. Because that's Soji and the Romulan. They met on the platform.
it's
Oh, are
not
you
a
are you Soji? Yeah, I am. Oh yeah, I'm so and so. I had a brother too.
no.
Boom, 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 boom,
That's
boom, boom.
not that's not even a
They couldn't
thing.
even take
That's
two episodes to film that.
the show's not for kids. That's a thing for
Yeah,
adults. And adults, it's okay to sleep with someone 2 hours after you met them. I'm sorry,
and
Ruben.
a
If you're an
platform
adult,
at work.
yes, it's okay. That is okay if you're an adult. It's 100% okay. In fact, you can meet someone on a train and sit next to them and sleep with them 2 hours later. It's okay with me. It's okay. That might have happened to me. It's possible. That could have happened.
Not saying it can't
Anyways,
happen. I'm just saying it's one of the many convenient things that happen on this show.
okay, but that one, if you're an adult, why not? Just do it. If you're single, whatever. Even more power
A
to
guy
you.
who comes up to you and talks about his dead brother. Hot. So hot. Just bang. Soji's such
I
a weird
I will admit,
pacifist
I will admit,
genius.
I was on the other side of that debate too. Everyone's like, "Oh, that guy's goofy looking. He's not a hot Romulan." And then there's some of us, like myself, who's like, "He's a super hot Romulan." No, this is the hot. Elnor is the hot Romulan, hands down. He's the hottest Romulan I've ever seen in my life. But he's also so sweet and wonderful and like just sensitive. He's so sensitive. Like that's what I want in my hot Romulans. Um, so then Elnor does this badass other thing, the way he holds his sword, and there's green blood on the sword, and he's just like, I have bonded myself to Picard, so whoever wants to fuck with him, get ready, you're just gonna die. And then Picard sees that everything's gotten out of control, and so this was a moment I loved. This was, I think, the highlight of the episode for me. I'm sorry for our audience that hates it when we get political. We've already mentioned Donald Trump a couple times, and I know some of you out there are Trump supporters, but this is just how I feel. But this is what a leader really does. Jean Luc owns for the Federation and himself and says, like, I fucked up. I he says something really beautiful. Of course it's beautifully written, and I don't know if, again, who gets the credit for this, but he says, like, I went into faith with you, or something super nice. Like, it's true. And from the flashback scene you could see he's like, again, it's disappointing because he's so invested. Like, he's helping this kid out, the nuns, he's eating the lembas bread, he's like, he's like telling stories, like he's definitely like invested in this culture. And then all of a sudden the attack on Mars happens, he goes back to Starfleet, he resigns, he does, and then he just abandons these people. And he says, but that's not just Picard, that's reflective of like what the Federation seems to have done as well. The Federation itself retreated from like a promise. And I like that's the other thing, this is something that reminded me of my mom. She was always, when we were growing up, she was always like saying things like, don't make promises you can't keep. And I
Oh,
saw the
I like
equivalent
that
of that.
line of a
Yeah,
promise is a prison.
yeah, and it's true. It's 100% true. When you make a promise, you have to keep it. Like, if you're an honorable person,
Right.
you have to keep it. And I can't tell you how many times I've broken a promise in my life. That's a human characteristic. We've all done it. You know what I mean? But it's true. It does feel like a prison when you think about it. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we make
I mean,
promises
if
that we
you're cynical
want.
about it,
What's
which is
that?
if you think about it in a cynical kind of way,
Right.
which is what Star Trek is now, cynical. It's not positive. It's not uplifting. It's not about evolution and
I'm
a
uplifted
better
by it.
self.
I think I'm totally the opposite of you. I'm uplifted by it because it's cathartic, because I think I, along with many, have kind of fallen into where Picard as a character is, like this kind of like, okay, I'll tend to my vineyard, I'll mind my own business, like, other people will take care of these things. I'm old, I'm tired, I'm retired, I'm done, like, I don't want, what I mean, like, these are things that all feel very familiar to me personally. You might be a better person than myself, but to me personally, I feel like a lot of connection to the way that Picard is now. And again, just from a canonical perspective, it's okay. Like, I don't mind following this character, this different Picard. It's something that like makes sense to me, even though I don't like it from like a very deep perspective. I don't want Picard to be like me. I actually want him to be someone I can aspire to be, but it's very cathartic and I'm really like into it. But then you see these moments where he gives that speech where you're like, that's a better person than me. I would never have thought to own up to that mistake so publicly. And of course it doesn't, what I also like is it doesn't really sway the Romulans. I mean, like, they're ready to kill Elnor, and he has to beam out of there in a hurry. But
Right.
it was a great moment where you saw like the old Picard, in my opinion, like the Picard, the honorable Picard, like the better human that you want to aspire to be, come out. So, anyways, he beams back aboard the La Serena, and he introduces Elnor to. Well, first he has like this very serious moment, which again I love that performance as well, where he's like, "Listen, that man did not deserve to die," and I love that because it's true. Like, the other thing is, like, Picard beams down with no weapons. He knows it's dangerous, and he beams down with no weapons. That's a huge statement in and of itself, and I love that. He doesn't even have a phaser with him that we know of. So he's a pacifist, it seems. And then he scolds Elnor for killing the Romulan, and he makes him swear that from now, and Elnor's like, every Romulan in that colony knows if you fuck with one of the warrior nuns, that's it. There's no other outcome. You're gonna die. But so Picard has to like make him promise, like, from now on you only kill if I ask you to. And he says, okay, I promise. And so it's what?
You dumped me for 14 years, old man. Be happy I'm here. I
That's
do
not
what
how
I want.
that's not how
Period.
I would be at all. I would be
It's
like,
just
yes, yes, dad, yes, father. You're the
yeah.
father I always wanted. I'd be like, whatever you want. I mean, I think
I'd be
Eldor
like, I
does
was aiming for
protest.
your neck. and I missed.
I think. Wow, you're not. I'm
I
glad
mean,
you're
you
not
get dumped
Elnor.
for 14 years by your dad. You're gonna make friends with the
He's
people you're
not, but
living
he's
with,
not his dad.
but
To
essentially,
Elnor,
effectively, he is.
Elnor wanted him to be his dad, but Picard never saw him that way. That's the unfortunate, sad truth, and that's the truth. I want Jean-Luc to be my dad. Patrick Stewart doesn't see me as his son. I want him to be my father. And he has a great son, Daniel Stewart, who's an actor also, by the way, and who I think you would love following on Twitter. He's great. Um, and Daniel Stewart played the character that we talked about earlier, uh, Batai, who is the son of in the Inner Light. Who's what's his character's name in Inner Light? Well, Batai is the son, and why can't I remember? I know this. I know this. I know this. TNG, the Inner Light. What's his name? I'm gonna be mad at myself if I don't look this up.
Didn't any of you play with ships and bottles when you were boys?
Kamin. Kamin.
Klingons do not play with toys. I was never a boy.
It's great.
It's my favorite
Okay,
line
so
from Star Trek.
Kamin is the alternate um
Flute
life,
Picard.
and his son is named Batai. So Daniel Stewart, his actual real life son, plays Batai in that episode. And Daniel Stewart also rejoins him in Blunt Talk, which I highly recommend everyone go see. It's a really funny show, and he's great. I hope Daniel Stewart makes an appearance on Star Trek Picard just to continue the tradition of father and son working together. It'd be great if he's like a Romulan. Actually, I think he could pull off a
When was the
Romulan.
last time we were on screen together? Was it 14 years ago?
Blunt
I'd
Talk.
like to be on that show too, so I can see my dad again.
Blood Talk was like only like 5 years ago, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't that long ago. Did you know that Patrick Stewart came from an abusive
No,
home? So yeah, so actually he's the opposite with his real children, from my
I
understanding. He's
hope
like,
so.
but Patrick Stewart has been on has admitted in an interview that uh he considered his upbringing to be pretty abusive from the perspective of his father. So, uh, very interesting Patrick Stewart trivia there, guys. Very sad, perhaps, but anyways, so he introduces Elnor to the rest of the crew, and then all of a sudden the ship is under attack, and we get our first space battle of Star Trek Picard, and it's with this kind of like somewhat modified classic TOS era, which they already alluded to, and we knew it was coming, and we've seen it in all the previews. Romulan Romulan bird of prey, so it was no surprise. But I actually liked the way it showed up, and it stuck true to kind of like the like we didn't meet a Tomalak or an adversary we weren't supposed to, you know what I
Right.
mean? But very cool battles. I'm glad that the phasers were not the pew pew kind, and they were the actual like
Beams.
phaser beams. That made me very happy. Although I don't mind the pew pew kind, but I think Star Trek's signature is the actual phaser.
Yeah,
The
beam.
beams,
Yeah.
right? And I just love. So then all of a sudden, they're battling it out, and then another hologram comes out named Emmett, which he only speaks Spanish. So we got our we, and so Emmett is the tactical officer, I guess. He's like the
Sure.
tactical slash
Yeah. He's like,
something. And but it makes sense if Rios is flying this ship alone. Like there are other stations. By the way, I want to talk about the La Serena before we end our discussion. I know we've been going on for an hour and 30 minutes now, but um,
I just think
I
I
love.
just think it's a little silly. I don't really mind the holographic crew. I think it's actually that makes it almost like an interesting show in itself, like a one man show. uh, and
We could do it.
I've always wondered like it seems like the Enterprise is way too complicated. What? Because they're constantly pressing buttons. Like, come on, man. This is like a supercomputer starship.
Well, talk about lazy. Gene Roddenberry's original concept, but it's not really lazy when you think about how technology works. Gene's original concept for the Enterprise is that there were no. You just sat. The bridge was like a lounge that you
Right. You
just
kind of
sat
just tell
in,
it where to go and it goes, and that's it.
and yeah, the
Right.
it's just like a show
I've
where
I've
people
wondered
sit
that a
around
lot.
it.
My issue is like, why did he give them all different personalities and make
That's
this
just
tactical guy like an emo like grunge rock band singer with the long hair, and he's all like, "Yeah, bro."
I can relate to it to a little degree because if it were me, I would do the same thing. There would be like Victorian Captain Sohail. There would be like you know like techie Captain Sohail. There would be like a lot. All my Captain Sohails would be nice though. They wouldn't be like I would be nice to all the different emergency Sohail or Starfleet Boy
They
holograms.
wouldn't run in
Um,
fear when you walk into a room.
no, I think Rios is a very interesting character. He's a first as far as like someone with prominence on a show. Like usually you get these quirky characters for like a one-off situation, but we're actually going to like really go deep into his psyche. So that's going to be interesting to see. I
I
hope we
also have
do.
a feeling that he's gonna die
No,
because you can
no
just keep
one.
no because you still have the holograms. So technically, he never dies. You still can, you know what I mean?
I forget.
He's an easy way to kill off a main character without really killing off a main character because you could bring
Well,
him back with with reason.
I think it was Sean who brought this up, but he's like, what if Rios is also an emergency command hologram this whole time? And
Well,
that's
it
a,
makes sense because when they pull the thing out of his shoulder, you're supposed to bleed more when the
and
object is, and he doesn't bleed at all,
he doesn't bleed
and
at
he
all.
doesn't really
So
seem to be bothered by it
yeah,
because he's Wolverine, smoke
but
cigars like
but
Wolverine.
yeah, so that would be that would be really interesting to find out. I hope it's not that because I really like want Rios to be real, but you never know. What is real? Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught on a starship, no escape from Picard. Just kidding.
It was one of my favorite Voyager episodes. They're being tormented by this alien. I can't remember the name of him, but at the end they have the alien captured, and he looks at Janeway and he goes, "But I was never even here," and he just disappears. And you never see him again. He never comes back on the show. He's my
Wow,
Moriarty of Voyager, where I'm like, why didn't they bring him back more often? I love Moriarty.
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Oh wow, that is pretty cool. So anyways, we get this space battle and Rios is having a real tough time and they're being pushed into the planet's like defensive shield slash um I just wanted to put the Pasteur out here because Dr. Crusher is probably the captain of the Pasteur. I hope she is.
You think she's
Or
gonna
the
show
chief
up?
that or she's the chief of Starfleet Medical.
She's the only crew members they didn't show in any trailers, right? Were Worf, Geordi, and her.
Right. Season 2. But I think what they if they want to be really crazy and really like either if they want to really polarize the fandom because I think I would be triggered by this, they should make it so that not only do the Romulans create a clone of Picard, but also a clone of Beverly, and Narek is the son of Shinzon and Beverly or whatever her name is, like bitch Zon. I don't know, like whatever.
I think they should say reveal that they killed Beverly in one episode, but then she comes back.
No.
She comes back as the ghost.
Okay, so Gates McFadden is an honorary goddess
Oh
on
no,
the
I
show.
would love to see her on the show.
Yeah.
I would love
So
to.
she gets whatever she gets the she doesn't come back as a ghost. She's gonna be well, whatever she wants to do, whatever the fuck she wants to do.
Or she can come back as
She can come back as
a sexy ghost that's always trying to get laid.
she, lots of people would love that.
The energy ghost or whatever it was in that episode. I love that ship.
That's the next. By the way, that's yeah, it's a great ship, the Pasteur, which is known as the what is the class? I'm trying to remember,
Not good with
but there
those.
was a TOS equivalent. This was a design that they adapted from the original series for the Next Generation. I thought it was done. It was a beautiful example of like adapting a design for TNG from TOS.
Uh,
But anyways, all of a sudden they're like having a tough time, and then all of a sudden this like Delta
Olympic
flyer.
class.
Thank you for looking that up.
Thank you, Memory Alpha.
Memory Alpha, shout out to you guys, the best resource. Um, but actually, before Memory Alpha, I used to look in my Star Trek encyclopedia written by Michael Okuda and Denise Okuda, which also had all of basically Memory Alpha is the digital version of the Star Trek encyclopedia, which they wrote, which covered. I mean, you could look up anything and it was there. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's so
Um,
much stuff in those books.
yeah, and I have like one of the later editions. I have to find it, but I think it stops at DS9.
Now the Picard version would be like a coloring book.
Oh my god.
This is Rios' ship. It's just a big rectangle with a bridge in
All
it.
right. We're almost at the end of this discussion. You can make it. You can totally make it. You can do it. I believe in you. Here, I'm putting did you like the ship from 2000 the did you like the
Yeah, the
redesigned
redesign of the Enterprise. Yeah.
you did like it?
Hmm.
That's cool. Not many people do in my experience. I like it too.
I
I
think
just
that's the
don't.
one they show in that hall in that lobby scene when Picard walks in, right? In episode 2, I think.
No, that's the Discovery redesign. This is the redesign
Oh,
from
okay.
JJ Abrams Star Trek, the
Right.
Kelvin
I haven't
Enterprise.
seen really looked at the Discovery one.
The Discovery redesign of the Enterprise is actually not too unfaithful to the original series Enterprise. It just has slanted pylons instead of pylons like um, the pylons look like here. Let me put this one here. So the pylons, imagine the TOS era engines. I mean the nacelles, but with the
Hmm.
slanted pylons. That's the only
Okay,
difference.
they're like angled back, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot more detail to it. Like it has like slotted pylons and like, more interesting little plates on the hull, hull plating and stuff
I
like that.
think
But
when
other
I
than that,
finish
it's
Twilight Zone, I'm gonna watch Discovery.
you should check it out. You should just to be a completionist.
That's yeah.
And then maybe we could trigger you more on the next
I gotta at
episode.
least give it a shot, like I gave Enterprise.
But I think you should try to watch season 2. That's
Just
that's
skip season 1.
just just giving you some
Knowing
friendly
you
advice.
for the 30 years that I've known you, that means a lot. I read into that the many layers of truth. I would hate the hell out of season 1, wouldn't I?
I don't know with you. I don't know.
Uh,
Sometimes you like things that I'm surprised at, but I would just say that on my guess, I would say
oh,
if
I
you were
lost
only going
your
to give
sound.
Discovery a one season shot, I would say only watch season 2. If you were like,
Why
I'm
don't
only
I
going to
hear you?
watch one season of oh, what happened? Did I lose you? Oh, just click the link again. Oh, hold on. Click the link again.
Oh, there
It
you are.
hasn't been. Just you hung up on it by accident, I think. So
Oh,
click the link again.
how did I do that?
Oh, here, let me try to chat you. We lost Ruben.
Oh, what's going on here? My computer's like frozen. Can you? Oh,
This has been a disaster.
it
Oh,
says
there you
I
are.
have. Well, I turned on my mic for Skype. It won't let
Oh, you're
me
back.
go to the tab that I had that.
Did it close or quit?
No, it's still there. Lost connection to server. Attempting to reconnect.
Oh, cool. All right, we'll wait for you to reconnect. Guys, this is I thought this was going to be like easy. It's not easy. It's not easy to record with technology from the future. We should probably wrap up anyways.
Yeah,
So
we're at the end of the episode anyway, right? Because after the battle, oh, well, after the battle is that little moment that I don't understand. Well, there's that moment where Picard says, "What is it? Some." The other oh, when we haven't gotten to 7 and 9. That's all we're missing.
So yeah, we're almost there. So
That's the moment I was
The
thinking of.
Delta Flyer type ship comes in from somewhere and starts helping them out, and they successfully cut the wing off of the bird of prey. And but the other ship is heavily damaged and is plummeting towards the planet. And so there's that whole exchange where Admiral Picard's like, "Oh my god!" Like he's reacting, but then he has to like acquiesce to Rios, and Rios basically says, "Okay, whatever he wants to do." And they beam over the person, the mystery from the mystery ship, and it's 7 of 9. And she, before she faints, she says, Picard, he said, like, he looks at her and he's like, 7 of 9? And she's like, Picard, you owe me a new ship. And she faints. And then the episode ends.
Right.
We did it. But you never reconnected.
No, still says lost connection, attempting to.
Due to the technical difficulties, I have no idea what this episode's going to turn out like, audience, but if it actually makes it on the air, I hope you enjoyed our fucking discussion that we tried so hard to have. um, Ruben, do you have anything to say?
Well, I was gonna say there was that one moment when the 7 and 9 ship hails the Rio ship, and Picard says, "Open hailing frequencies," and then he looks at Rio like, "Oh, I'm sorry, this is your ship," and it's like, you already told him where to go. You already said engage. Like
Well, he
he
asked him all
he
those things.
clearly has respect for you as a Federation
Right.
officer because he's Han Solo, who was a former Imperial officer. Except I like I don't want to make that sound negative because Rios, it's not really because Rios seemed like he was an officer who liked being a Federation officer, got into some trouble, and
Yeah.
now is getting to serve again in a way
In a way. And for the greatest,
under a legendary captain.
but not only that, a legendary admiral slash captain who's also disgraced. So for
Right.
him, it's like, it's very like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But anyways, I think it's just like nice that Picard still cares about the niceties, like, like he's trying to be respectful.
Sort
Like
of.
I
In this episode, he did. Last episode,
he
not
did.
so much.
They all
Engage.
waited. They all looked at him.
Engage.
They looked
This is
at
my
that
ship.
was my
This is my
favorite.
ship.
I ate that up. I ate that up. I'm the opposite of you. But last but not least, it's time to give the rating. So 10 plus 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 for me. So now it's now it's your turn. First of all, what's your revised rating for episode 1, 2, and 3? Because I know it was originally Infinity Plus
Uh,
for episode 1, but what is your
Revised rating for episode 1.
1, 2, and
I'd
3?
probably go down to like a 6.
Okay, and then 2.
I don't remember what happens in episode 2. That's when he meets Raffi at the end, right?
He meets her at the end. Yeah, so it's mostly episode 2 is mostly Picard sleuthing what happened to Dodge. So they
Oh,
go
it
to her
starts off with
apartment. Yeah,
I give that one a 5.
5. And then
Episode
what about
3 a
episode
3.
3? A 3. Now what
And
do you give? Okay,
this
and
one
then this
a
episode.
5.
Oh, okay. So it did kind of go back up for you. You're like more
Yeah, this
interested.
episode definitely better than the last episode. And I
Okay.
would probably even say it's the best episode of the season.
So then you have to give it a 7. To be fair, you gave 6. Episode 1 is 6. Why would you give this a 5?
Because I just don't like the show. I know, like, it's better in some ways, like directing wise, but the characters are still, half of the characters are uninteresting to me. The
Okay,
story's
interesting
uninteresting to
logic.
me. Like, they're just
Well,
throwing things out
okay.
there. And
I hope you don't get pissed at me for this, but considering that I gave it a 10 plus plus plus, we're going to pull your 5 as an average between the two of us. We're going to give this episode a 7.
okay.
So this episode gets a 7. I'm actually quite happy with that. That makes me really happy. But you know what I'm more happy about? That you took the time to talk to me about Star Trek Picard,
Oh,
and
definitely.
the audience get to see more of our insanity and friendship, which is even better, in my opinion.
Definitely.
All right,
I
I'm gonna
mean,
hit
I'm
stop.
on the ride for 10 episodes, so you stopped
I
it?
love it. I'm so happy. And maybe Discovery season 3. Audience live long and prosper, and also for the first time ever
Oh
on
yeah,
Starfleet Boy, Joe True.
Joe True.